Thousands of people walk into America's national parks every single year and simply vanish. No body, no clues, no explanation. And when investigators tried to find out exactly how many people have disappeared, the US government handed them a bill for $1.4 million just to access the data. So ask yourself, what information is so dangerous that they'd rather make you pay than let you read it? Every single year, people walk into America's national parks and never come back. Not a handful, not a few unlucky hikers who took a wrong turn. We're talking about thousands of people, men, women, and children, who simply disappear without a trace in the wilderness that covers millions of acres across the United States. And here's what makes this truly terrifying. The government won't tell you how many. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a documented fact. When investigative journalist and former police detective David Paulides first started digging into missing persons cases inside national parks, he expected to find organized records, detailed databases, and clean numbers. What he found instead was something far more disturbing: silence. The National Park Service, one of the most well-funded federal agencies in America, openly admitted that it does not keep a centralized database of people who go missing within park boundaries. Think about that for a second. Every major city in America tracks crime statistics. Every hospital tracks patient outcomes. But the agency responsible for 85 million acres of American land visited by over 300 million people every year, claims it simply doesn't count how many visitors vanish. When Paulides filed Freedom of Information Act requests to get the raw data, the NPS responded with a demand: pay us tens of thousands of dollars in processing fees, and maybe we'll get back to you. For a public agency, for public land, for information about American citizens. The fees weren't just unusual, they were a wall designed to keep the truth buried. But why? Paulides spent years compiling his own database, case by case, park by park. What he eventually published in his Missing 411 book series shocked readers across the country. The cases weren't just numerous, they were deeply strange. Experienced hikers with GPS equipment vanishing in areas less than a mile from busy trails. Children disappearing within seconds of being in a parent's line of sight, only to be found miles away, sometimes across mountain ranges, with no explanation for how they got there. Victims discovered without their shoes, even in freezing temperatures. Search dogs that inexplicably lost the scent trail immediately. Bodies found in areas that had already been searched multiple times. And perhaps most chillingly, some people were never found at all, leaving behind no gear, no remains, nothing. The patterns Paulides identified don't read like ordinary accidents. They cluster around specific geographic areas, often near large boulder fields and bodies of water. They disproportionately involve people with certain physical characteristics, notably people who are very tall or very intelligent, like PhD students and professors. Many disappearances happen during good weather, not storms. And a haunting number of cases involve victims who were last seen at the edge of a group, someone who stepped just slightly off the path and then were gone. Law enforcement and park officials have largely brushed these cases aside, chalking them up to hiking accidents, drownings, or wildlife encounters. But the evidence doesn't support that conclusion in many of the documented cases. If a grizzly bear took someone, there's evidence: tracks, blood, torn clothing. If someone drowned, currents eventually return the body. In many Missing 411 cases, there is simply nothing. The person walked in, and the land swallowed them whole. The question of why the government refuses to release centralized data has fueled enormous speculation. Some believe it's bureaucratic laziness, agencies that never built proper tracking systems and are now too embarrassed to admit it. Others believe the numbers, if released, would be so shockingly high that they would devastate the multi-billion-dollar national park tourism industry. Imagine if the real figure wasn't hundreds of missing persons a year, but thousands. Would you still pack your family into Yosemite? Would you hike alone in the Appalachians? The economic consequences would be enormous. There's also a third theory, darker than the rest, that someone or something inside the government knows exactly what is causing these disappearances and has made a deliberate decision that the public cannot handle the truth. That sounds extreme, but when an agency actively blocks access to public records with five-figure fee demands, you have to ask, what are they hiding, and why does it cost so much to find out? In 2022, A documentary based on Paulides' work was released, and it reignited public fury over the lack of government transparency. Millions of viewers watched and millions asked the same question. If our own government can't or won't tell us how many people go missing in national parks, how are we supposed to protect ourselves? The answer, for now, is that we can't fully rely on them to do it. What we do know is this: the wilderness is vast, it is ancient, and it does not care about our maps or our technology or our confidence. People go in, some don't come out, and somewhere in a federal filing cabinet, there may be a number so large that the people who know it have decided you're better off not knowing. The real question isn't whether people are disappearing. If you found this story unsettling, you should drop a comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories the mainstream media won't touch.